Everybody have their calculators out. And I don't know why the calculator does this. And by the way, there are tons of YouTube videos out there. All you have to do is type in finding a linear regression on whatever calculator you have. And there will be tons and tons of videos out there for people wanting their 5 minutes of fame. So that will show you also how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn my calculator on. And then the next thing is that you notice that on this right here, this is where you'll lighten and darken the screen. And notice that if I do, and it was usually lighten and darken, this is off of the blue, which is second. So if I'm going to darken my screen, I do second and then press up arrow. Second up, second up, second up. Now where is it? Don't see it on here. If I want to lighten my screen, whoops. Oh, look at that. It's the opposite. If you're on a regular TI, this thing's getting darker. It's the other way. This is the TI color. And if I push the down arrow, it's getting darker. If I press the up arrow, it gets lighter. On the gray ones, those of you who have the gray ones, because I've got the gray one as well, it should be the other way. And normally on the gray ones, and I don't think I've got my gray one. And up I do. Here's the gray one. When I do second up arrow, there's a number that appears in the corner just quickly. When that number reaches 9 consistently, that tells you we're getting close to having to replace your batteries. Right now, I think I'm at 8. I'm at 8. See, slight difference between that and in color, but very little. I'll keep that there just in case. And the 83 works the same way. By the way, if you have an 83, works the same way as the 84. So now we know how to lighten and darken our screens, hopefully, but it's going to be off of this right here. And now, what do we need to do? We need to set our stat. And for whatever reason, the diagnostics for the statistics is not turned on. And I'm going to take these for this half of the room and then pass this over to Jeannie for your half. Take one. Give me one so I have it. So the first thing we're going to want to do is turn the diagnostics on. And for those of you who don't have your calculators with you this morning, this is what you're going to do with your calculator. Mark this to make sure. If for some reason your diagnostics are ever turned off, look at this note right here. Kind of underline it, circle it. It says, turn the diagnostics on first. You only have to do it once. And sometimes when you run a program, it'll turn them off, which is catalog. Cursor down to diagnostic on and press enter. This takes you back to the home screen. Press enter again. You will see the word done, and when you see the word done, the diagnostics are turned on. So you're going to be wanting to deal with the diagnostics because that tells you about how good your model is. So you need that information. So we're now going to do that. So get your calculators. and turn them on. And then we're going to do second 0. Second 0. And you should get catalog. Second 0. And then you're going to cursor down until you get to diagnostic, so it's going to be in the D's, diagnostic on. I'm going to look at the arrow, and you want to look at the arrow until it hits and diagnostics on. These are all of the functions that are in your calculator. You will use this quite frequently in order to write programs if you're a program writer. And when you hit diagnostics on, see, it's diagnostic on, diagnostic off. I want diagnostic on. Diagnostic on. Then you press enter, and that brings you back. That's the home screen. And then you press enter again. This says, is that what you want? And you say, yep, that's it. And then when you press the second enter, it executes it. And now the diagnostics on my calculator are turned on, so that when I do the statistics, it gives me more information. Otherwise, it wouldn't give me the information I needed. Why the default is off is beyond me. To me, I'd always have it on, and then you'd have the opportunity to turn it off. But they have it set up that the diagnostics are turned off. So everybody have their diagnostics turned on? Yes. Okay. So here we go. We're going to start the problem. This says I've got 2 coordinate points. Now, we don't have to use our calculator to do this, but after we do a linear regression, you should never have, if you have 2 coordinate points, you should never have to use your calculator again, your hand by hand again, in order to find the equation of the line. With 2 coordinate points, the calculator can actually now do it for you by doing a regression. That says, here is a set of data. Happens to be only 2 points. Draw a scatter plot. Now, a scatter plot is your data just graphed with dots. So, -1, +1, and +2, 1, 2, 3, 4, +4. That's a scatter diagram. And we know how many points that we need to graph a line? 2. So at which point we know what the line looks like. We could put a line through it. It's going to be perfect. If I have 3, remember, that's why a lot of teachers will tell you, graph 3 coordinate points if you're going to do a line. The first 2 can draw the line. The third is used for a check, because if the third doesn't fall in that same, yeah, then it wouldn't look like a line, and that says you're wrong about something. A regression line. Now, the question is, what is a regression line? It is a line, y equals mx plus b, that, and I'm going to use the word best, fits the data. Now, in our first example, we knew it wasn't a line because we had 1 coordinate point. It was slightly off. But it would give me something that looks okay. This example is going to be perfect. So the line of best fit will be the actual line. So it says, well, if your coordinate points are a little bit off, I'll just make an adjustment for you. And this will be what kind of fits your data. Now, how do I enter the data into my calculator? What you're going to look for on your calculator is a button which is 1, 2, 2 rows down and 3 columns over, and notice it says Stat. And then on Stat, you will press Edit. Now, all of that is here, the steps. And then it says, what do you want to do? Well, I could edit, I could sort, ascending, I could sort descending, I could clear, and I could use something called the setup editor. I could calculate. And if I use the right arrow, move over to calculate, those are all the statistical calculations. One variable statistics, two variable statistics, median, LINREG, notice AX plus B, linear regression, quadratic regression, cubic regression, quartic regression, that's a fourth degree polynomial, linear regression reversed. We had a calculator, the TI-85 and the TI-86 did it in reverse. Why would you want to do it in reverse? I don't know. I never could figure that out. LN, natural log regression. EXPREG, exponential regression. Power regression, logistical regression. Sinusoidal regression. And a manual fit, that's a new one for me. I'm going to have to check that one out because I don't know that one. Quick plot and fit equation. Ooh, that's a new one. I have all kinds of new things on this one. And my gray one, by the way, doesn't have those last ones on the bottom. My gray one, I think, stops with, well, it had a manual fit. That's where my gray one stops. And I never messed with that, so I'm going to have to look that up. Oh, something new for me to learn. Oh, cool. Okay, so, but we're only going to be interested right now in number 4, which is linear regression. So, I'm going to go back over to edit because I need to put in my information. Need to put in my data. Edit means I'm going to put information in. So I'm going to choose 1. I can either type the number 1 or notice my little black box says that is selected. So if I press enter, it brings it up onto the screen. And notice I have data in there already. And I've got 6 L's. L's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means I could have 6 data sets in there at the same time. That's very helpful, by the way, if you're, say, in economics. Because in economics, a lot of times, you'll compare year and cost, year and profit, year and revenue. So you could have the year in the first column, and then you could have the others in the other 3 columns, and then you wouldn't have to enter the data each time. You would just say, I want column 1 and column 2, column 1 and column 3, column 1 and column 4. So in other words, you can put in all your information and you just match columns as to what you want to do the calculation on. So there are 6 of them. And by the way, if you want to see all 6 and how you would access other than 1 and 2, notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Above the keys are L's, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, L6. They're blue, so they're gotten off of the second key. So if I wanted to do L1 and L3, I would literally type it in. I want to do statistics on L1 and L3. When I go to do the calculation, that'll tell me. The default is L1 and L2. So how I'm going to enter the data. Now I've got information, whoops, hate when it does that. I've got information already in there, and since I have information already in there, I'm just going to type over it. And it puts it in a column, so you type -1, and enter to enter, and then just delete the rest of the information, because I've got information in there. And then I come over to the second one and put in the Y values, 1, enter, 4, enter, and I'm going to get rid of the information I have in there by deleting it. Don't put zeros in there, because then it counts it as data, and that's going to screw up your model. Now I have 2 points, and I've now entered my data. Everybody have their data entered? No. I do it now.
When you hit enter, you're supposed to hit enter. It's mine's error. I hit.
Okay, so we're going to put in what?
Negative one.
-1, that's your negative.
Never mind, I used the subtraction.
Use the
again. I did that last
subtraction,
time.
yeah.
All right.
And you should be fine. Yeah, what she did is, and that's where you need to be careful, on the TI calculator, Cassie was a little different. On the TI calculator, this means subtraction, that means negative number. So if you put in a subtraction instead of a negative number, you're going to get an error message. You're fine. Except this is X values, right? And this is Y values. Yeah. So I'm not sure what's the problem. But you're not doing anything.
Oh.
Because you don't have any more data put in.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So we have our data entered. Now how do we calculate a linear regression? Well, once our data is entered, we're going to go back to and press the stat button, and it says, okay, my information's in there, so I go back to stat. So on your calculator, row 2, column 3, you press stat, brings that menu back up. I don't want to edit anymore because I've got my information already in there. I want to calculate that information. So I'm going to move to, with the right arrow, to calculate, and it says, okay, I got all of this stuff, what do you want to do? Well, I want a linear regression. I want an AX plus B. So I can either cursor down to 4 and press enter, or type the number 4. Either way. And because I'm on this guy, by the way, you will not get this off of a regular TI-83. This says, does this look right? And you'd say, yeah. And I'm just going to go down to calculate and then press enter. And there it is. AX plus B, it says A is 1, B is 2, and then we have these strange R squareds and R. And then we need to talk about what that means. Now, what is the model? The model, we got that A was 1 and B was 2. It's of the form Y equals AX plus B, so it's Y equals 1 times X plus 2. Or we normally write it as Y equals X plus 2. That's your model. That says now I can put in X, get out Y, put in X, get out Y, put in X, get out Y. I have the equation that goes through those two data points. The next thing is this word called a correlation coefficient. Now the correlation coefficient that's R. And if we look at what it gave me an R squared, it gave me an R. R squared is the square of R. R is the correlation coefficient. It tells me how good the model I got fits the data. The closer it is to plus or minus 1, the better the fit. Plus or minus 1 is perfect. Plus or minus 1 is a perfect fit. Plus or minus 0.9 or above is good. 0.9 or above is good. What is my correlation coefficient for this problem? 1. What does it say about the equation I found for the model? R says it's what? A perfect fit. Since R equals 1. So let's find the model by hand. Well, I have 2 coordinate points. With the 2 coordinate points, I can find the slope, which is 4 minus 1 over 2 minus a minus 1, which is 3 over 3, which is 1. I have the slope and a point. I'm going to pick 2, 4, because it has no minuses in it. I can find the equation of the line. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, or y minus 4 equals 1 times x minus 2. Y minus 4 equals x minus 2, or y equals x plus 2. Now what do you notice? Y equals x plus 2 is what? Is that the same thing the calculator found? Yeah, calculator found y equals x plus 2. By hand we found y equals x plus 2. The question ends up being, is the calculator can now do that for us and put it in slope-intercept form if I have 2 coordinate points. Go.
On that equation, it doesn't matter which y
What, no.
coordinate you use for
No.
y1, right?
Right, and I didn't use negative 1, 1 because it was a minus sign. You know me and minuses.